Welcome to Success in Business. I'm Marty Moak, member and guest services manager for the Greater Burlington Partnership. Today, our presenter is Iowa Secretary of State, Paul Pate. Paul Pate has dedicated his life to public service. Now entering his fourth term as Iowa's Commissioner of Elections, Secretary Pate is guided by three core principles: service, participation, and integrity. Under Secretary Pate's leadership, Iowa has become one of the top 3 states in the nation for election administration. The state has broken numerous records for voter registration and participation during his tenure. Secretary Pate successfully instituted Iowa's online voter registration system in 2016. He has also taken steps to protect election integrity by drafting Iowa's voter ID laws and defending them in court multiple times. Secretary Pate has also established a post-election audit system and greatly enhanced Iowa's election cybersecurity. His civic education programs, voting accessibility initiatives, and election cybersecurity efforts have been recognized nationally by National Association of Secretaries of State, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, and the National Student Parent Election Organization. The Secretary of State's office is in the small business portal for the state of Iowa. For 6 of the past 7 years under Secretary Pate, Iowa has seen a record amount of new business filings. Secretary Pate has implemented a fast-track filing system in 2018 that greatly enhanced the speed and the efficiency of the process. Secretary Pate's work with the Iowa legislature to enact the Safe at Home program and initiative aimed at protecting survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, and stalking by keeping their address confidential. More than 1,200 Iowans participate in Safe at Home. In January of 2022, Secretary Pate launched the Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking Coalition. Over 400 businesses and organizations joined the coalition within its first month, and the efforts to end human trafficking in Iowa continue to grow. Secretary Pate served as the president of NASS from July 2019 to July 2020. He is currently the co-chair of the NASS Elections Committee. Finally, Paul Pate is nationally recognized small business leader, a father of 3 and grandfather of 5. He and his wife, Jane, reside in Cedar Rapids. Please welcome Paul Pate.
Thank you, Marty. I wanted to say up front that that's a great introduction. My mother would be very proud of it. And if I was really smart, I'd just stop right now and say, thank you for letting me spend some time with you. But you're stuck with me for a few minutes here this afternoon. And I do appreciate the kind invitation from the Burlington Chamber folks there. It's always been a pleasure during my visits there to work with your community. And I will put a blatant plug in there as a former chamber board president myself. The economic engine of our great state is our local communities, and the Chamber of Commerce is definitely that engine. So I appreciate your interest and all of you joining us here today to learn more about Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking. I'd like to start it out with just a quick video, if you don't mind, and then we'll dazzle you with some information.
Human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery, and it happens when men, women, or children are forced to perform labor, services, or sexual acts. Human trafficking affects thousands of people across the United States, and it can happen to anyone. But you can take action and join the fight to prevent this crime in Iowa. Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking, or IBAT, is a recognition and education program from the Iowa Secretary of State, Paul Pate, that helps local businesses prevent human trafficking through education and awareness. As a member of IBAT, your business can help educate employees, customers, and industry partners about the signs and impact of human trafficking in Iowa. By empowering others to learn something and do something, you can help make a difference in our communities. Joining is easy. Just apply for membership on our website at ibat.iowa.gov, and we'll provide you with training and resources to equip you and your employees. As a part of IBAT, You'll receive a window decal to place in your business and be recognized publicly on our website and social media pages for your work to actively combat human trafficking. You can also help raise awareness through community outreach and education campaigns. Do your part and help prevent human trafficking. Learn something, do something. Join Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking at ibat.iowa.gov today.
Well, that's just to give you a brief taste, if you will, of what the IBAT program is about. But let me give you a little background on how the Secretary of State's office, and particularly myself, got into this campaign to battle a crime that is something that I think we all would agree we do not want in our communities. As a former mayor of Cedar Rapids, I can tell you that we dealt with economic development. You deal with crime and wanting to make sure your communities are safe and you have good education and all the infrastructure that goes with your town. But we never ever talked about something so crucial as human trafficking, whether it's sex or labor trafficking. And I, about over 2 years ago, had the opportunity to be in my own backyard of Cedar Rapids, listening to a presentation by an advocate group about human trafficking. And it took me back, quite frankly. It really didn't. Quite a bit of guilt, because I'm sitting here going, we never talked about this. We might have talked about prostitution and things like that we wanted to stamp out in our communities, but never the idea of human trafficking. It's one of those situations that has slipped between the cracks. And I felt, after hearing this presentation, that there was so much more we could do. And my office oversees over almost 250,000 businesses who come through here for licensing and registration and other types of activities as a portal for small business. And I felt that this was an opportunity to maybe activate, to energize, to bring some people to the table to help us combat this. Because I know, as a business owner myself, and a theory or a philosophy of my family instilled upon us, you give back. We believe we got one of the best states in the country to live in and one of the best communities to live in, but it's not always the best for everybody. And until we get to a point where everybody can share in the same kind of benefits we all have, our job's not done. And as business owners, we invest in these communities. We are part of it. We look at this as both our labor force, but also our clients, and it's where we live at. So the natural connection was asking these 250,000 plus businesses to step up and to do two basic things: to learn more about it, and then to do something. And that's what we're going to share with you here today. And we want to first give you a sense of how this really got started at the grassroots. It wasn't that long ago that we started a program called Safe at Home, which deals with a whole area that I'm going to share more with you on. But the key factor is that we had people enroll in this program who were also trafficked. And we saw the issue up close early on, but not with the same intensity until we started actually talking to the advocates across the state. Now, I want to, at this point, introduce Melinda, who is our Safe at Home coordinator. And we'll let her try to walk you through what we do for Safe at Home, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little more about the IBAT program itself. Turn right over to you, Melinda.
Okay. Hello, my name is Melinda. So I'm going to be sharing about the address confidentiality program called Safe at Home. So what is Safe at Home? Safe at Home is an address confidentiality program that helps victims of domestic and sexual violence, sexual assault, trafficking, and stalking. We offer 3 main services. So we provide them a substitute address, we will forward their mail, and we offer confidential voter registration and absentee ballots. Safe at Home is not a witness protection program. We are not able to redact any previous records, and we're not able to shield them from any legal obligations. However, per the Iowa code for Safe at Home, the Safe at Home address is to be accepted in all legal and court documents. So there are other ACPs, or address confidentiality programs, in the nation. So Iowa is one of 40, or I guess over 42 states that offer this program. Washington was actually one of the first states that offer the program. A lot of these programs are administered through the Secretary of State's office because of the voting component. However, some of them are offered through the Attorney General's office. Each program differs how it is administered. However, we do have a good working relationship with a lot of these states, so we are able to help facilitate when a program or when a participant is moving to another state, we can help them with that transition. So how to apply, they have to complete an application that is found online. They can find it online under the forms tab, and then they can mail it to our office. They can also call our office and we can send them one. They can be mailed back or emailed to that address listed there. If they do fax, it's not in a secure location, so it's important that they give us a call before doing so. So here's an example of that application. It's pretty straightforward, asking for their name, their residential address. It is a requirement that they have a residential address here in Iowa to be a participant. Some of the mistakes we do see on the application is they will list dependents that are over 18. Any dependent, even if it's their dependent, if they are over 18, they are required to apply for themselves. Here's an example of a participant card that we will give them after they have joined our program. Everyone's address will look the same. However, each participant will have a different apartment number, and this is how we identify them when their mail does come to us. So our agency is notified when a participant cancels or withdraws. No, we do not send any sort of notice to a public or private organization when they have been terminated. One way to know if a participant is not in our program is if you keep getting mail returned to sender. Agencies can call our office to verify, and we will either say yes or no if they have. So other helpful information, enrollment period is 4 years with the option to renew. They will have an expiration date on their ID card. Again, this program is not for everybody. A lot of times we will tell our participants that they must have recently relocated for it to be effective, because the purpose is to shield them from their new address from their abuser. We cannot erase public records that are already in existence. And if their offender already knows where they live, again, this program is not going to be effective for them. So I will pass it back to Secretary Pate. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. The reason I wanted to have a little background on the Safe at Home program was because that was something that I felt very strongly about when I came back into this position from my spending some time in the private sector and when we come back to public service. But the point being is we have a lot of people who are forced to live in the shadows because they have been victims, and whether they're victims of domestic violence or sexual assault, trafficking or stalking, it's one of those situations where they feel isolated. And the one thing is they don't want people to know where they live at, because that's how the bad actors find them and could hurt them again. And that's why it's called Safe at Home. You need to feel safe in your own home. It's not a witness relocation plan, as mentioned, but it is an opportunity for people to be able to come out of the shadows and rejoin society on a more normal level. And it gives them an alternative, that substitute address. And if the bad actors go to the address we're giving them, I hope they do, because it's in the middle of the Des Moines River. That's a great place for them to hang out at. But the point is we want to give them an opportunity to reclaim their life. And a big part of that is voting, because voter registration is a public document. And we wanted to make sure that that was protected so that these bad actors can't, using that as a way to find these folks and penalize them, because they have a right to vote. And as Commissioner of Elections, that's a position or a role I play. So that's part of the reason for Safe at Home being housed with us in our Secretary of State's office. I mentioned to you earlier that we have people who were trafficked in our program. And that kind of gave us a taste of a bigger problem that we really saw out there. And after listening to the advocate group in Cedar Rapids, we clearly saw this was something that was not getting enough attention to build an army to be able to combat. So we stepped up and we partnered. And this is a crucial part of this, is partnering. That's what we're asking today from you as a Chamber of Commerce. But we partnered with the Network Against Human Trafficking, which is a statewide organization of advocates. My office is not an expert. I will say that right now, whether it be on any of the topics we just shared with you, whether it's domestic violence or trafficking or stalking or any of these types of situations. But we can be a spokesman. We can be a cheerleader. We can be somebody who encourages people to get the education and the information so they can be more productive in helping our communities in our state. So that's what we did here. We partnered up with the Network Against Human Trafficking. As I said, is a statewide organization made up of advocates who are the experts. And that's where we send you. That's where we want to make sure you go to get that information. We've also been successful in partnering with the Department of Public Safety. Legislature roughly 2 years ago passed legislation that requires all hotels and motels in Iowa to do a training program for all their employees on human trafficking. Clearly, we felt that that was one business component in our state that comes in close contact with those that are being trafficked because they're using motels for many of those transactions. It's worked out very well. These businesses stepped up and they've done a great job. And I think it's helping push this situation to where law enforcement has a lot more help. The DOT enforcement are some people who stepped up and helped us. And they're working with the motor truckers. The National Motor Truckers Association is one of the best, in my opinion, groups of businesses, if you will, who have really been aggressive on having eyes and ears out there, a neighborhood watch program of sorts. And they're helpful in getting that message out as well and watching for the bad actors as we go forward. And of course, where we're at today, we launched the IBAT program, Iowa Businesses Against Trafficking, and we have over 665 businesses involved. Many of these members of when I say 665 are chambers of commerce, like your own and others. We have counties who've joined, and we have many organizations who've joined. Rotary International, particularly here in Iowa, is spearheading a major outreach on fighting human trafficking. That's the kind of team we're trying to build here by asking businesses like yourselves to step up and learn something and to do something. Now, knowing the signs of human trafficking, that's a little more complicated, to be very candid with you. Because many of the signs I'm going to share with you, or is on our screen right now, are things that could be interpreted as something else, because they're drug related, they're prostitution related, their behavior, their depression. These are things that happen, but you can see yourself, if you're looking at the teen side of it, our young people are a big target group for human trafficking. They really prey on them, and social media is a big, big component of that. And I'm going to appeal to those of you who are parents or grandparents or uncles or aunts or just good neighbors. We really need to be very, very tuned into watching and helping our young people bridge some of these challenges they're going through in life so that they have a support network they need, because you can look for things like unexplained absences from schools. In many cases, they run away, some of these young people do, because they've been encouraged on social media to say, hey, I'm your friend, your parents are out of touch with you, I can help you out, come on, I can be your uncle or your new daddy or your friend or your boyfriend or whatever it might be. And they get them to leave home. And the next thing you know, they have moved them into the whole trafficking, prostitution, and other unfortunate situations of their life. Watch for depression, anxiety, the inability to speak for themselves. Someone else is doing all their talking. They start having minimal contact with family. Part of that is played because the person who is trafficking them is trying to separate them from their family. They don't want them to have a support network from their family. I said boyfriend or daddy or uncle kind of things. These are all impactful. They're hanging out with people you don't know. So those are many of the teen things you can watch for. But it can be very, very complicated. Unfortunately, some of these traffickers are actually tattooing or branding these kids as like livestock, so they know this is my property. The multiple cell phones, and it gets complicated. I will tell you up front, because there's so many sophisticated apps now on phones that hide activities. You might not see the things on your own kids' phones that you think you're monitoring on their phone. Now that I've scared you and totally confused you, maybe, the key thing here is we just need to be more aware of what's going on in our communities and our surroundings. As I mentioned earlier, it's like a neighborhood watch concept, and we're going to do our best to help with that and be good neighbors. On the signs of labor trafficking, as business owners, and I can speak firsthand, owning my own business, this can be complicated too. But again, just being a good neighbor and watching and being there is helpful. But you can start looking for things like, are they being escorted to and from the work site? Do they live at or near the work site? Are they kept under surveillance by somebody? Are they reluctant or fearful to talk with others? There's some indications maybe of physical abuse. The big one for me personally is the payment doesn't go to the worker. To me, that's a red light. I don't know. You can all have your own personnel policies. I have an issue. My company, we don't issue any payroll checks to anybody but the employee, because it just, to me, sends a strong signal that somebody else is manipulating them. The worker doesn't possess their own identification. And I want to take one of the myths out of the game here. Human trafficking, particularly for labor, is not always about illegals. That's the stereotype. Oh, yes, they're all illegal. No, I submit to you, many of these, not most, are here legally. But to oversimplify things, some of them are brought in as like a headhunter saying, hey, I got jobs for you in this part of Iowa. And they do. They'll go to a business and say, I can bring you some workforce. The difference is it's because of a language barrier. In many cases, these same people are bringing them in and they're controlling them. They are holding onto their passports and their visas. They are collecting those paychecks. So the employee that you're paying isn't really getting all their money. That's frustrating. And that is something we have to help do better at. The language barrier is a big part of it, but I think we can work on that. I think getting to know and be more in touch with who our employees are always helps us. And we can't walk around with our eyes closed to this. As tight as the labor market might be, we have to do better at it. So I encourage everyone to join me in that. And then if I could just take a step back on the sex trafficking side of things, let's get rid of the Hollywood stereotype. The big van pulls up, they jump out of the car, they throw a hood over the person's head, kidnap them, and sell them into the prostitution side of life. It's much more complicated. As I've already alluded to, they really play the social media side very, very hard, and they recruit these people. They're grooming them. And some of them are pretty patient. They'll take a year or 2 or 3 even. And the tough part is once they've gone into this life, it's extremely hard to get them back out. And the consequences take years and years, if ever, for them to be able to get back to where they have some level of normalcy. So we want to have that happen. I want to challenge you, even though I can't see you all, I'm going to trust you. But as you can see in the diagram, raise your hand like you're in school and just bring your thumb in and your fingers down. Okay? I'm waiting for y'all to do it because I am really peeking at you. Big brother can watch. But that is a sign for help. And this can help a lot if you're seeing somebody in a car or somewhere because they can't say, help me, help me. We want to make sure you have that sign down, if you will. Now, there's some alarming human traffic stats out there, and I want to just touch on some of those if I could. It's been very hard to track it because so often the trafficking side, particularly for the sex trafficking, got bunched under prostitution and drugs and burglary and other kinds of crimes. But as we start to break it out more, we're seeing the numbers are there and they're pretty significant. And just the tip of the iceberg, the numbers I have from 2020 alone, we had 14 traffickers that were convicted and sentenced to prison. But the alarming thing is the Attorney General's office in 2020 had 558 sex trafficking victims that were identified. We have 158 labor trafficking victims that were also identified. So that's a tip of an iceberg. There's so much more out there we're not catching on to. It's just some couple insights here. Trafficking is getting so more sophisticated because of things we're doing to crack down on. Law enforcement needs our help. They cannot be everywhere. A lot of this activity will happen around wherever there's money. So when we're having the next big sporting event or some kind of other community event where there's a lot of people there, money flows in, prostitution comes in, which usually lends to trafficking. So eyes and ears from folks like yourself watching helps immensely so that you can help the law enforcement because they're dealing with traffic control and drinking issues and things like that. They're not necessarily having the people they need to watch for the trafficking side. As we crack down on the hotel motel side, these people are moving more and more to remote settings. They're not all in Cedar Rapids and Des Moines and places like that. They're actually out in more rural communities because the bad actors, on social media. They see the ad saying, I've got a little boy or a little girl here, 12 years old, come on down. And they will come from far away. I mean, far away, several states. And they drive in and they abuse these poor people and then they leave. And they do it in such a fashion, it's not always easy for law enforcement to catch them all. But I would submit to you, if you're in a rural setting and you see somebody who's renting a trailer or a house, and they have a lot of out-of-state cars coming in there and only staying for about an hour or so, I submit to you, there's probably something going on. And whether it's trafficking or some other illicit activity, that's what good neighbors are about. You need to make sure law enforcement knows about it so they can help. We've had a lot of good support from the businesses who've joined us. We asked them to put their IBAT sticker up, which has been a great thing. We've also asked them to do other things, and they have stepped up. Casey's stores alone across the state have been putting stickers in all their bathrooms that say, here's a toll-free number. If you need help, call it. And it works. Casey's have shared several stories of where they've actually interceded right there on the site. They had a young woman who was in a Casey's out in Western Iowa, and she saw the sticker. And when the bad actor was out putting gas in the car, she was supposed to be in the bathroom. She went up to the pizza counter and said, hey, I need help. I'm being trafficked. The Casey's people were good enough about hiding her in the back. They locked the women's bathroom, called the police. The police came, interceded. She's free. That's a victory. Those are the kind of things you can do. We had the folks in Ankeny, the Chamber of Commerce there, do a big summer festival. And they worked with us, and we put out the little stickers in all the porta potties. They put up signs around their event talking about human trafficking and what to look for. They trained their volunteers on human trafficking and what to look for. Those are the kind of community outreaches you can do and help do. Now, I'm not doing all that, folks. I got great partners. That's what all these advocates are for. They are there and are willing to help, and they want to help. The motor truckers alone put out programs for all their truckers across the country to watch for things that are going on so that we can be better at what we're doing to keep our eye out there. Our towns and our state truly are only as great as we want to make them, and making sure it's good for everybody. So I hope you're going to join me, and I'd like you to help us. I'd like you to join today. There's a nice cute barcode up here for you to look and scan if you'd like, but we also will. My staff's giving me a hard time because I called it a barcode. So it's a techie thing here, folks, but you're gonna have to put up with a guy who's still learning it all. But the idea behind this is we'd like you to join us. And we would like you to go to our website, which is ibat.iowa.gov. And you can fill out one there, or you can give us a call. We'll mail you an application. But I guarantee you, we're not going to inundate you with a ton of advertising to sell you anything. We do try to do a newsletter every other month that will give you a lot of good information about what some other businesses are doing to help profile and help combat this particular challenge. And we welcome your ideas and suggestions for our newsletter going forward. And we also want to put you in connection with advocates. I'll use my business again. My business, we sit down with our company employees every year. I'm a construction company, and we give them about a 15-minute overview of what trafficking is about, and make sure they're aware that there's help out there. We also have our IBAT stickers up. We put it on our Facebook account and on our web page. We also are mailing out to our clients, the people I pay money to, my vendors, telling them about human trafficking, how they can sign up. These are little things that you can do and join us. But we've had great success. We've got Hy-Vee and Fairway. A lot of big companies are helping. But the important message here I'm going to submit to you is majority of the folks who have joined us are small businesses in small town Iowa. And when I ask them why, the answer is pretty basic. Why not? We live here. We want our communities to be good places for people to live. And we believe everybody should have the same kind of opportunities. And as long as this kind of human trafficking, a form of slavery, in my opinion, that we've got to combat it. We've got to do something to help more with that. And I think we can together do just that. And I look forward to visiting with you more in person when I'm down your way. But I also encourage you to reach out to us anytime you have suggestions. And if you want more information on Safe at Home or IBAT, we're here to help you out with that. We're going to take some questions, I think, on the chat room. And if you don't have any, I've got about 30 more minutes of stuff I can throw at you, but you don't probably want me to do. How's that?
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. So if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat, and we will go ahead and read that. Mr. Secretary, could you just remind us again, when we sign up to become a member of IBAT, what will happen next? What would the next steps be?
Our office will send you out a beautiful decal to proudly display at your business. We also will be sending you the newsletter, which will give you ideas. And of course, go to our website, because there's where we have all of our partners, all these advocates, all the resources. And they're more than happy to come into your chamber, your business, to a service club and do a more formal presentation. A few of the advocates do have some survivors who might be willing to talk. But the key thing here is we have a toolkit with some graphics and some templates that you can use on your internal company communications or to your clients and vendors. So there's a lot of resources there that you can tap into. And it's really to keep the dialogue going. I don't want this to be a hot spot where, oh, well, that was a hot item in 2023. This is going to be an ongoing battle. We just know we have to keep fighting it to push it out. And now that we have good partners, we're seeing a lot greater awareness being put out there for the public, and that excites me. We also try to do a spotlight in our newsletter. We'd like to spotlight your firm. We'd like to people know this, because I'll be upfront with you. Peer pressure works. I mean, it really works. And if you see one of your friends and one of your co-workers or co-business owners around the area, you go, well, I should do that too, because Bob's doing it or Susan's doing it. And in fact, of the 650 some businesses, you'd be surprised at the diversity of the businesses who have joined us. I've got accountants, I've got bookstores, and I have candle shops, and I have a lot of mom and pop boutique type stores joining, as well as the big businesses. So it takes all of us to get this done. And I'll put a blatant commercial plug in. We do list the businesses who are members on site too. As I alluded to, I do believe in peer pressure. So, you better get used to it. I want to beg, borrow, whatever I have to do to get everyone to join us.
Very good. Thank you for that. As we're waiting to see about any other questions in the chat, where would be a good source, Mr. Secretary, to find out about perhaps regional trafficking issues? Like, is there a way that we could find out how prevalent it might be in our area of the state in Southeast Iowa? Sure.
Your sheriff, I'm sure, and your police chief would be more than happy to visit with you about what they're seeing. As I pointed out, you have to drill down, because so much of the stats will be covered under prostitution, maybe, or under some of the crimes, direct crimes related, because of the nature of what you're talking about here, whether it be, I said, prostitution, whether it be burglaries or drug offenses, they all kind of fold in. The other thing about it is if you go to our website, we do have advocates on there from your areas in your region. And for those of you who are across the river on the other side of the Mississippi, Illinois has a safe at home program as well. And so it is something that's, again, over 40 states are doing this. They all might do a little differently, but it's there. And the IBAT program that I've launched here, we have done a fantastic job of getting good community support like yours. And we're now seeing other states wanting to join us in this endeavor. I've shared the information. We've got now Mississippi is started on board, Texas is on board, and Kentucky is coming on board. And I believe you're going to see a lot more as I present more information on this summer at our Secretary of State's conference. I believe when we get all 50 states enlisting businesses to help more on this front, we can win this war. We can win it.
Very good. We do have some questions in the chat. The first one is, and you may have already addressed this, sir, what is the best course of action if we suspect that someone is trafficked?
I don't want anyone to put themselves in harm's way. You are not law enforcement, but calling your local law enforcement is the first thing right away. We do have a hotline number. We put it out there so that you can also refer to that, because we try to track it nationally. It's the number is 888-373-7888, and that is on our website, so you can get it there. But I think it's important You know that. And as I mentioned, the Casey's example, that was somewhat a passive approach. They did hide the lady, they did call law enforcement, but they did not confront the trafficker because, again, I don't want anyone getting hurt. What law enforcement needs is they just need people out there watching for things. It's no different than if you saw a big van pull up to your neighbor's house and start pulling and putting things into it, their TV, big screen TV and things like that, and you're scratching your head going, well, isn't Bob and Susan in Florida right now? You'd probably call the police. I don't think they want you walking over there and asking, are you a burglar? Trafficking is the same game. I don't want you confronting them, but I would like to encourage you to call law enforcement and let them sort it out. If anything, it's just more of a security call. They'll just check in with them and find out, hey, is everything okay? And if it turns out it is, okay, it's done.
Thank you for that. Our next question is, what kind of things could a financial institution do to help fight trafficking besides just putting up a decal?
Well, financial institutions are already one of our best because of some federal guidelines. When you start dealing with excessive cash coming in, they're monitoring that. And some of the signs, whether it's for trafficking, it's really more like for the prostitution side. When someone's walking in with a lot of smaller bills, lots and lots of cash, it's a pretty good sign and that you've got something going on. And we would submit to you that we have some advocate groups out there who would love to sit down with banks. In fact, one of advocate group in Eastern Iowa is developing a video right now that we hope to get out here soon to some of your financial institutions you could use for your employees to what to look for. It's, again, what you're looking for is no different than what you're looking for on any other type of illegal activity from a financial institution standpoint. These people are cash operators. Sometimes they create credit cards in the name of the traffic victim's name and will run it up and stick them with a bad credit rating and then not pay it. That's another problem for folks to deal with.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the hand signal. Simply, where can I find the hand signal that saves lives graphic? I am interested in putting it on our website.
If you go to our site, which is the IBAT at sos.iowa.gov, it's right there. And when you join, I'm sorry, my staff's giving me conflicting information.
Email us. We'll send it.
Okay, they're saying if you email us, we will send it to you. But if you go to our website, we should have it on there as well. But the graphic is something that is available. We have several templates and graphics on our website that we can help out with.
Thank you. Next question is, at a large public event, does that affect or change the best course of action?
Well, on a large public event, we try to be more proactive. As I mentioned to you with the Ankeny Festival, the fact that they trained their people ahead of time, the fact that they had signs up and they were being more proactive, I like to think it does. And the more we educate the public, we expand our army to a much bigger audience, and it makes it a lot harder for these folks. And I think to some extent, we've got to appeal to the people who are paying for this stuff and tell them, these are not people who are voluntarily doing this. They are victims, and lay a little guilt back out there so they understand that this is a wrong thing. So that's part of it as well. But the more proactive, the better. I think that's always a big thing.
Very good. We are waiting to see if there are any other questions in the chat. And so while we are waiting to see if there's any other last questions, Mr. Secretary, was there anything else that you wanted to add in the meantime?
Well, I just want to invite all of you, if you're in Des Moines, please don't hesitate to visit our offices, and we'll be happy to try to answer more questions for you. And anything you need, don't hesitate to give us a call or email us and check our websites. We want to be there for you. And I got to put a blatant plug in. I am the Commissioner of Elections, and I'd love to talk to your chamber sometime in the future about the integrity and how solid we are in elections in Iowa, because that's another important topic we are more than happy to address. I think Melinda wanted to make a quick announcement.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the participant card. Being that a lot of you are either business owners or working in a business, you may come in contact with someone who is using this address. I just wanted to highlight that it's important for you, if you have any questions, to call our office. We tell our participants it's not their job to explain what this program is. A lot of times, I mean, these are victims, so bringing it up again and even just saying it's a program for victims of domestic and sexual assault, that can trigger things. And so we stress to our participants, have that place of business give us a call so we can verify yes or no that they are in the program. But again, you may come in contact with this address, being that you're far from Des Moines. If you do come in contact with this Des Moines address, don't be too alarmed. You can ask them to show you the participant card. They should have it. And again, you can call us. So
Thank you for that. Well, I hope I've given you enough to intrigue you and that you will help us by growing this army we're building of businesses across the state, to making this state a better place for everybody. And I am very confident that you want Burlington to be one of the best communities ever. And as I said earlier, I'm looking forward to coming down your way and enjoying some of your hospitality.
Thank you, Secretary Pate and your team for your presentation today. Please join us for future success in business presentations, which will be announced in the partnership newsletter and Friday Facts as scheduled. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.